the name of our show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Large Glass.
Hello.
How's it going tonight? You're just like, whatever.
Whatever.
So welcome to Large Glass, where we bring you a new artist every week. We're just kind of post-Thanksgiving right now, and we're, I don't know, on the mend, I think, a little bit.
I think so, getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah, we also had some technological issues just before we came on.
I think I'm still a little shell-shocked from that because I'm still wondering if it's working correctly.
Oh, here we go. We got Berry Boy is here. Hey. And Pumpkin Audrey is here. Mom's here. Hi, Mom. Ben's here. What's going on, Ben? Nice to see all you guys. So we had like this, we do this every week. Like we sit down and we're like, so here's what happened just before we came on because we're noobs, right? But
well, everything was rigged so well, and then at the last minute, you got all the error messages, and then it wouldn't log. So
well, no, what happened was I clicked the button to go live, and it said your video failed to start. You need to go update your software, and we're like, shit. Why does that happen?
But in true Todd fashion, you fixed it in about a second.
Okay.
So I think we're okay.
It was a panic-ridden second.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got a lot to talk about tonight.
We do. And look, John's here too.
Oh, hey, John. It's good to see you, man. Thanks for coming to this. I hope this doesn't look like a total, hack session.
Yeah.
And Christina's here. Oh my gosh, we haven't seen you in a while. It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
I normally have a second chat window open on this side of the screen, which I can see much better, but for some reason that also wasn't working. So the gods are not with us tonight.
Yeah, but that's okay.
We're gonna struggle.
That's all right.
So
anyway,
I hope you guys had a nice Thanksgiving. I hope it was safe, and we were virtual, so we sat at a table with a iPad at one end with my family on the other side of that.
Yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Actually, I liked it.
It wasn't bad.
It was a very different kind of Thanksgiving, which was
Dave's here.
kind of cool. Hey, Dave.
It was a different Thanksgiving. I think what made it is, like things we don't do on normal dinners in the house. Mm-hmm. We don't do an elaborate job of setting our table. So we took time to set the table elaborately.
Yeah.
That made a difference.
Yeah. And then,
it was nice.
And then Finn picked out what we were going to make, which was, I thought he did an excellent job.
Finn actually put clothes on.
He put clothes on. Yep. He picked out the meal, so he did awesome.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Yeah, it was good. So that was nice.
Yeah.
Should we open something to drink?
Yeah, let's.
Because I'm watching our frosty mugs melt. And
we don't want that to happen.
It's making me sad.
Then they wouldn't be frosty mugs anymore.
All right. So normally the bartender would do this since tonight we're just drinking Brooklyn Winter Lager since we know for sure that one of the sketchbook artists that we're featuring tonight is from Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. He's also hanging out with us tonight. Pumpkin Audrey's like, what made it was the mac and cheese. Yeah. Yes. That was amazing.
That was awesome.
So, all right, let's open this up. Let's fill these up. Let's get the show started.
You don't want to pour them over the microphone?
Not this one, because I don't want this thing to bubble over the top. Okay. Here, and then I'll get you going with one, because we sort of pre-gamed a little bit one that was open. All right. That's for you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
This is episode 12.
Oh, gosh.
The 12th, really? The 12th episode.
Wow.
So here's to that. All right. So we're still a little slow. We've got 5 people. John says, I have a fin back here. Oh, I love John, you were actually the one who indirectly introduced me to the fin back, because I first had that fin back after coming to your show, and then we went to that tremendously awesome barbecue place that you sent us to, and that's where I first had the fin back. So
yeah, that was
nice.
Almost a year ago. That's the last time we actually went out to a concert and everything.
I think it was the last time we went out, period.
I think so.
Because we went to see David Byrne that night.
Yeah.
And before we went to David Byrne, we went to John's show.
Yeah.
And we had barbecue.
Yeah. And that was probably the last big thing. So, yeah. Anyway.
John's like, yeah, that barbecue. Absolutely. Ben's like, yeah, 12th episode. Thank you. The John Brown Smokehouse. That is amazing. So if anybody ever gets a chance to go to the John Brown Smokehouse, it's this tiny little place. You don't expect it, but it was snowing. Was it snowing that day?
It was snowing that day.
And there was nobody out and about. The sidewalks were slippery. There's nobody. We opened the door and this place is just packed and on. I mean, it would probably terrify you now to walk into a place that was this crowded nowadays, but it was, oh my God, the food was ridiculous.
And the food was so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So let's talk a little bit about how to, support us and talk about the channel a little bit before we jump into the show. So as usual, we talk a little bit about following us on Twitch, which is always helpful. You can also subscribe to our channel. We're going to be doing subscriber benefits and subscriber giveaways down the road, which we're excited about. And, running something like this takes time and effort, and we like it when we're supported. So if you can support us, awesome. If you can't, hang out and watch anyway. We're okay with that. And we wanted to talk about another possible way to support our show, which we're featuring right now. If you notice that right down, I'm going to get this right here on the screen, you will see this little pink bar. This is our subscriber goal for the month, which was for November, but now we're into December. We're hoping to get 10 subscribers by the end of the month. And as soon as we do get 10, we're going to be giving away a piece of art that was donated to us by one of our friends. You want to tell about it tonight, or should I? Go ahead.
Yeah, pretty well. It's Glenn.
Yeah.
A very good friend.
Glenn Lavertu, who, if you've watched, you've heard about. He donated a piece of his work.
He did. And I think you have some slides from...
Oh, yeah, I do. Should we look at those?
Yeah.
All right, so we've got, Glenn Lavertu is a friend of mine. He's also a New England artist. He lives in Connecticut. He was recently featured in Art New England magazine and as one of the up and coming artists in that area. And so here is a copy of the article from Art New England. Here's the actual page that he is featured on with one of his drawings. And the piece that he gave to us is a cast plastic piece that he's using in a larger sculpture, but he decided to edition this. And it's called Angel of Death, Flintlock Mechanism, and Plate 2020. This is the black edition. We have a white one. They are limited to 6 each color. And so we're going to give one away when we get to 10 subscribers.
Yep. And
which is cool.
It is signed on the back.
Yep.
With a date. So.
Yep. He actually just started framing these in these like glassless frames.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, they look really cool.
Wow.
So we don't have one of those, but it still looks good.
Still, it's pretty amazing piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we get past this one, if you wanted to support us by donating a small piece of work that we could give away on the show, we will talk about you relentlessly, much to the boredom of our viewers, until we get to our subscriber goal. And then you get to get plugged on our show while 4.5 people watch us every week. Well, that could be really exciting.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that. Anyway, want to do a little reading? Didn't you have a Jerry Saltz thing you wanted to say? Was there a Jerry Saltz story that came out this week or something?
Actually, not this week. I don't have one.
He hasn't done anything.
Yeah. Well, I haven't. Nothing really struck me as wow.
Wow.
Yeah, because the election kind of slowed down a little bit, and
yeah, he's not rapid fire posting.
Yeah, he's not rapid fire posting about that.
As some of you know, we read from Jerry Saltz's book on our shows most of the time. We don't do it all the time, but his book, How to Be an Artist, and sometimes the chapters pertain to what we're talking about that night. And so I found a chapter in here that I thought was relevant. And so I'm just going to kind of give you a quick read from that because I really love this. And it's chapter 9, Develop Forms of Practice. Keep a pocket-sized sketch pad with you at all times. Whenever you have an odd moment over your morning coffee, as you're riding on the subway, while sitting in the dentist's waiting room, practice looking at your own hands and drawing them. Fill your pages with hands, lots of them on the same page. Hands over hands over hands. Hands are really hard to draw, by the way. Right?
For real.
Other people's hands if you want to. They don't have to look right. You can draw other parts of your body too. Anything you can see with your own eyes in the moment. Play with scale, make things bigger, smaller, twisted, gnarly, finely rendered. You can even use a mirror if you want to draw, say, the place where your cheek turns into your mouth. Don't make it up. The goal is first to learn how to look and then to describe with your pencil or pen what you see. And it's funny. I think that this is not as easy as it sounds.
No, it's not as easy as at all. No.
We talked about it on Sunday when I was drawing online about this idea of people looking over your shoulder. I mean, if you're in your sketchbook drawing on the subway,
mm-hmm.
That's hard to do.
It is. Well, sketchbooks are very intimate and personal spaces too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they really are. And when you realize, and I told a story on Sunday about how I was on New Jersey Transit coming home one night, and I was drawing in my sketchbook, and I felt this overwhelming presence, like there was somebody lingering, and I turned, and there's a man behind me with his phone out, shooting video of me drawing. And when he saw me look at him, he was like, I'm sorry, I really just wanted to show this to my wife. And I was like, okay. Huh. At first I was like, what are you doing? And then it was like, oh, okay, well, that's all right. Okay. That's all right, because he wanted to share it. But when you're drawing, everyone looks at you.
That's true.
But I think his advice is really sound here in just developing a form of practice. And one of the things we do on this show all the time is we talk about getting over your fear of talking about art, your fear of making art. And I love the fact that we get people on that watch us that are looking for those forms of inspiration. And I know that I've inspired some of you because I've sent you suggestions for what to go buy or what to use, and you've gone and gotten them. So don't be afraid when other people look at you. It's intimidating, but you're making a bold step by doing that. You're out there in the world doing something, I think, that changes the way the world sees itself and we see each other. And so by having people drawing in public at any ability level, I think that's important. So for what it's worth, Jerry Saltz, thanks very much. We have sketchbooks tonight.
We do have sketchbooks tonight. It's funny, though, because I'm like thinking about sketchbooks and using them as a form of practice. And usually that's how we think about them. We think about them as personal and intimate, and we're working out ideas. Some people do think of them as a finalized art project, like some of the people that we're going to be featuring tonight think about it like that. But it's this interesting personal versus public.
Well, and I think the personal side of it for a lot of us is this mode of thinking, right? And I go there as a way to think.
Right. And your sketchbooks are gorgeous. Sometimes you can really see a progression of ideas, and it started off with this one little thing, and it just had a metamorphosis on its own.
Right, but I don't use my sketchbook as a place to go make individual masterpieces on each page, which we're going to see tonight a little bit of, right? I go there to sculpture, like the idea of a sketchbook as a diary in a different voice. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. That more, I mean, obviously it's a visual voice, but it's also, there's an immediacy to that visual voice. It's quicker. And by quicker, I don't mean the drawings you make are quicker. I mean the distance between what you're thinking and how it's being represented is shorter. That's why it's quicker, I think.
That could be.
But that's why I use it as a mode of thinking. And I think all of these are not without thought. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
Right? But I think I think we'll show that tonight. Some of these that we're going to look at are clearly going to be about that individual page. And others will be about the individual page, but they're going to have a different kind of mode of expression. That's a terrible way to put it. There's a different impetus, I think, for making the drawing itself, coming to the sketchbook in the first place, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, wow, it's only 8:14 and we're going to jump into the artist. This is early.
Well, we have a couple of artists to show too, so that might actually be a good thing.
I was gonna say, don't you just want to find a bunch of fluff to fill it in with? Should we have a word from our sponsor? We don't have any sponsors.
Not yet.
We don't want any sponsors.
Nah, we don't need that.
No, forget them. All right, so let's take a look at our first artist tonight. That's just a blank screen. So you want to talk first?
I can talk first. So I can't remember exactly how I came across his artwork, probably on Instagram, and I'm sure somebody shared it. I can't remember how, but ever since I saw him and his artwork, I've been following him. His name is Nicolas Sanchez. He's pretty young. He's in his 30s. He's Mexican-American heritage. I can't see the picture right there. I'm sorry. I just need a visual
I'm running
cue.
a little tech stuff here. I apologize.
All right. So even looking at this drawing or this his sketchbook right here, I want you to really zone in on the tool that he's using. If any of you were from the 80s, you're going to notice it's one of those pens with the 4 different colors. It's red, black, green, and blue. He does the majority of his drawings with that old school pen, which I absolutely love. It's ballpoint. To give you a little bit of a background on him, he picked up drawing when he was really, really young, and I think it was more of a way to shut him up. So his father, whenever they would go on a road trip, he would give his sons, who were sitting in the back seat, sketchbooks and pens and pencils, and he was just hoping that they'd keep quiet.
Imagine doing that today.
Yeah, but now we give him an iPad or something, but this really stuck with him, and he was just so fascinated with all the mark making, and he stuck with pretty much pencil drawing as he was growing up as a child. And as he progressed into high school, he was introduced to more and more mediums, but he always went back to the sketchbook. And a lot of his pieces can stand on their own, and a lot of them make up a great miniature portfolio.
Well, and I should be advancing these because we have a lot to show you, but I really wanted to stick around on that pen. I loved that pen when I was a kid, and it was one of those things you spun in your hand while you clicked through all the different colors.
Yep.
And one clicks down, the other one retracts.
Yes.
They were really fantastic
They were a lot
things.
of fun.
The artist's name is Nicolas Sanchez. He has a middle initial of V. You can find him on Instagram and really scroll through a lot of pretty spectacular stuff. And Amanda's here. Hi, Amanda. Good to see you. So you know his work too, I see, which is cool. So yeah, that pen is pretty interesting. And you have to remember that all of these drawings that he's doing are done exclusively with that one pen.
Just the one pen. That's all he's using.
That's the $1.99 Walmart or drugstore pen. And I'm always a fan of talking to my students about falling in love with your materials and choosing materials and tools and implements that speak to you and oftentimes are of a particular quality. And this runs against that, but not in a way that I'm going to talk negatively about in any way, shape, or form, because, a good artist never blames his tools. And in this case, this is on a lower rung of the ladder, but he can really make it do something.
Yeah.
So Nicolas Sanchez puts out that page of, this jewel, right? It's this tiny little jewel. These are those little moleskin. Look at his thumb on the corner of that image. I mean, that shows you the size of this thing. These remind me of books of hours from early Renaissance religious
yes, and
texts.
Actually some of his subject material goes back to the early Renaissance too, and some of the classics. Like he did a portrait of, I don't know if you have like the Mona Lisa.
I don't have those in here.
Some Goya's work. He would do replications of them with the four-pronged pen. Yeah. And he'd go to a museum and sketch it out, or even statues. He would use the same thing.
Right. And he does, I mean, what is it I'm trying to say here? There is a way in which when you look at the process primaries, the colors of process primary printmaking, there's a way in which you can yellow, red, and blue are pigment primaries. Red, blue, and green are light primaries, and process primaries are cyan, magenta, yellow, and ketone, which is black. They're all very similar. It's all basic variations with the exception of red, blue, and green, but I'm not going to nerd out on you here. The point is that by carefully combining those four colors, you can arrive at all the other colors. And when you dig really deep into these pen drawings, you can see them all. And as you back away from them, there's the illusion of all of those colors. But, they're really quite spectacular. And of course, we had to include a cat.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. That's cute.
It is cute. I'm gonna move on.
It is.
Nice kitty.
Actually, so just wanted to point out like a little techie thing for you real quick. Your chat popped up.
Yeah, no,
so
I made it.
Great. Okay.
I was trying to make it work when you yelled at me for not being able to see the sketchbook.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Amanda says he did the Highline 9 residency earlier this year where you could peer through the window and watch him work.
Oh,
no
wow.
kidding. Did you see him working? You must have if you're talking about this. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, he does other things too. I mean, he does oil painting.
Yeah.
He does, work with charcoal and such. I'm most fascinated with the sketchbook and the portability factor. Accessibility in art to me is one of the most attractive elements to it. So it's accessible in the place that he's just walking around
Right.
and creating art, and he can pull this out, and he can pull out this artwork that he can take anywhere. I mean, there's accessibility working on a whole other level.
Right.
Because before we've been talking about street art and seeing it here and there. This is a little bit different, but it still works.
Yeah, no, I think there's something to be said about that accessibility thing. I just want to read. It says, Ben says, this just proves that it isn't always the material, it's the artists themselves. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. You watch digitally, Amanda. Okay. Yes, totally mind-blowing, actually. And Amanda says, but you could go watch through the windows. 9 artists were there working. He did a huge canvas of his dancing figures. Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
I think I saw an image of that, actually, but I didn't pull that one up because it didn't feel like it was a sketchbook, and I just was trying to filter by that. Mm-hmm. But I was just going to say something about that kind of accessibility. Mm-hmm. I've always kind of had this kind of awe for artists you could approach and talk to, because I feel like if it's your job to put something out there in the world that people are going to look at, if you turn yourself into a celebrity that's totally untouchable, and I'm going to name 2 of them, yeah, it's fine, nobody's going to get mad at me. If you turn yourself into a celebrity that's totally untouchable, aren't you doing a slight disservice to the very people that are trying to experience your work? And the first one, and I'm going to bring up Glenn Lavertu again, because Glenn and I were once walking down the street in Chelsea, and we walked right by Richard Serra. And I was talking at the time, and I glanced up, and I just saw the guy who was passing us, and it didn't click for me as quickly as it did for him. And Glenn grabbed my arm, and he goes, holy shit, that was Richard Serra. And he said it loud enough that Richard Serra totally heard him. And as we both turned around, he looked over his shoulder at us and trotted away. Like, not walked away, like increased his speed, like, I'm not going to talk to you.
Maybe he was shy.
I don't think Richard Serra is the slightest bit. As a matter of fact, I know he's not shy.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
So he was one. I won't go into the other one.
Okay. That's good.
Anyway, I like that kind of accessibility.
No, I think that he's
Get the kitty off
very down to earth. I like his background and his roots. We already mentioned he's, Mexican American. He actually grew up in the Midwest.
I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Given the subject matter, I mean, he's painting barns, or drawing barns, cows, pigs.
And he does draw some very cultural depictions of
his portraits are gorgeous.
They are.
I love what he achieves in this, especially there's just something about the way the yellow on the bottom where this woman's blouse comes around.
There's energy too. There's a lot of energy in that drawing coming out, and it's not just from his use of, the color. The one thing I really like, he does do this one series with his compositions where he's doing these profile pieces. He does a lot of portraits in this profile. This is a repetitive thing that you're going to see, and even going back to the idea of celebrities have been commissioning drawings off him.
From him.
So LL Cool J.
Really?
Yeah. Brooke Shields was another one. Oscar de la Renta, Neil Patrick Harris. So there was like a whole bunch of celebrities that saw him, and I think Neil Patrick Harris actually wanted a pet portrait, but still he is gaining recognition that way.
That's cool.
I do like that he comes from very humble roots, though. I don't believe his family had a lot of money when he was growing up.
Right.
And he was exposed to art, like with the sketchbook story. His dad, threw some sketchbooks at them. And then he went to school, and the high school teacher took some interest in him and expanded his knowledge a little bit more. And then he went on to a community college, and then he learned a little bit more. And then he ended up going on for his BFA at Kendall College of Art and Design in Michigan, and then an MFA at the New York Academy of Art. And because so many people helped him along the way, he actually established like a scholarship program. And he actually goes back and he gives an annual scholarship to all the schools that he was educated at.
Oh, no kidding.
For kids that can't afford it. So every year there's a winner.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And he really kind of paid it forward.
Nice.
So I just love that about him. I love his talent. I love what he's doing with art. I love the accessibility. And it's so funny that something so small like a sketchbook, it's so powerful, because this whole project and his artwork is just, it's like this big, beautiful
Yeah.
passing it on. Like, he makes me so happy to just look at his drawings, and I really get sucked down his Instagram sometimes just looking at all the images.
And you can totally see why. And that's, I have to admit, I started with him because he does have that real impact. When you first see one of these opened up, you're just like, oh my God.
And then you're like, is that, there's like photorealism going on too. And you're trying to decipher what's going on, but then when you see like the materials and the process and the detail.
Now, this is not to say, and I want to take I just want to take a critical moment in this, because I want to recognize the fact that this is not the only thing the sketchbook is about, right? And I think a lot of us that are just, that I've been talking to out there that are just kind of getting started with experimenting with sketchbooks, you could look at this and feel downright worthless or intimidated and be like, God, I can't do that. And some people get inspired by this stuff and really want to push hard, and others get turned off a little bit by it. And so it's the type of thing where you just have to say, there's more to a sketchbook than this, and if you can aspire to this for sure, but maybe you take something else away from this guy, the fact that he can just pull out a Bic pen, a ballpoint pen, and make it sing for him, and maybe that's a goal for you.
Pumpkin Audrey, does he sell any of the sketches? As a matter of fact, he does, and right now he's selling because of Christmas time and the holidays and all of that. So if you go to his website, you contact him.
Amanda says, I know he sells directly through direct message on Instagram.
And he was promoting it this week too with the holidays. And he said, because he's very prolific with his work. He's like, I'm drowning in my sketches, so I'd like to sell some, which I think is awesome.
Right. Okay, I wonder if this is the last slide I have of his. I'm not sure. Nope, got a couple more in here, a few more farm animals. But yeah, I think this guy's definitely, something that we can take something away from here just as a start for this. I also liked that all three of our artists that we have tonight are that grounded, real type of person. Mm-hmm. They really feel to me like they're...
They really are. And they speak from their roots too.
Yeah.
They reflect back on who they are and where they're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love this one. I wish I could have gotten a better image of this one because I really liked this. Anyway, let's cycle through these. Ben says, was the baby pick also in pen? Yeah, that was totally ballpoint pen. These are all ballpoint pen.
And actually, I pulled out a couple of interesting quotes because I watched a couple of videos that he had put out, on the internet and stuff like that. And he was talking about how he felt about art and communication and sketchbooks and everything like that. And he was saying that art is one of the few universal languages that exist, that brings people together.
Yeah.
And another thing he said, which I kind of honed in on, was who I am as a person and who I am as an artist overlap.
Which I think, I think that's something we can say about most, for sure. I pulled this image out because I think this is brilliant. So I often talk about some of my teaching, but I don't ever mention where I teach. And one thing that I know that we have struggled with in the past is showing sketchbooks of students in any kind of given display. And look at this. This is a shadow box frame that has a binder clip on a nail. Now, I have to admit, I've used the binder clip on the nail method before, or on a tack usually, to hang these up because it's really nice. But I love how the frame just kind of adds that little extra touch of, hey, this is really special. You're only going to get to look at one page anyway, so why don't we put it behind glass? Mm-hmm. It's a really, really nice touch. It really it puts a finishing touch. And with that, we can move on to our next one.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
So, all right. So,
this guy. Okay. I don't know if anybody has seen
Lee John Phillips'
work. I wasn't going to quite say his name yet.
Oh, sorry.
But that's okay.
I thought you forgot.
I like to lead into things like really slow, and then they're just like, come on, let's get over it. So anyway, this is Lee John Phillips.
Sorry.
So he's another artist. He's Welsh.
Yep.
And how we fell in love with him was through his sketchbook, but it was actually based on a BBC Wales
video.
Short.
A little short.
Yeah.
You want to watch it?
Yeah, why don't we turn that on and you guys can fall in love with him too.
Yeah, we can. Let me see if I can find it now, because I've got to make sure that I've got it here, and that's not it, and that's the one that's it. Let's see if we can find that. Is this it? Something's not working. No surprise there. Hold on. Sometimes it's temperamental. It's going to be... Oh, you know what I think happened? All right, keep talking. I'm going to fix this while you go. Let's put our slideshow back up, and you can keep talking about him, and I will have this fixed in a moment.
Okay. Well, the way that we discovered him was he was working on one particular project, which I'm not going to talk about that project first.
Okay.
But to give you a little bit of a background on him, he was educated at the University of Wales. He's got up to an MA. And he does do a lot of sketchbooks in addition to the one that we're going to be showing. The one that he's working on now is this project that's been going on for quite a while. Some of his sketches have a lot of typography, this written language in it. It also has a lot of like tattoo flash art. But the one project he's working on now is more of an homage to his grandfather, who passed away back in 1994.
Right.
And
I'm really struggling here with this, as you can see. So bear with me. You guys keep talking. Let's go to the chat room.
Let's go to the chat room.
Oh, I'm going to mess up our video for a second here, so just bear with me.
Actually, I did come across this on a friend of mine shared it with me. That's kind of how we came across him anyway.
Okay. And let me just bump this around a little bit.
It's coming along.
I'm getting there.
See, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to blow it for you guys. You're going to look at this and you're going to be like, oh my God, that's so cool. So if I blow it, that's not cool.
The reason this happened, just so you know why I'm having these technical difficulties and looking like a total noob, is because we had the earlier difficulties where I had to shut the stream down and start it over. And it's really particular about grabbing other windows from my computer. So I've got this video that is shot in the worst format, just in terms of its aspect ratio. It's a square. So deal with the black lines, I guess. All right, let's fire this one away and see what happens.
Okay.
Hopefully you'll be able to hear it.
"24th of August in 2013, in the Drawn a Day book, I wrote, I think I may start a tool series. I spent some time in my grandfather's shed, and my poor granny wasn't too happy we were all poking around in there. So many cool things in there I didn't have enough eyes. I found my old camping kettle, which was nice. I think it would take me weeks to draw everything in there. It would be a cool project to document totally everything. I have very few memories of it being kind of daytime where he was in the house. I felt that he was always in the shed. Obviously very, very strange going into the shed after my grandfather had passed away, to see his watch still on the worktop, on the workbench, his safety glasses. That's the one thing that I kind of remember most is the safety glasses left behind. We've drawn over 7,300 objects, and I estimate there to be over 100,000 items in there. So it's definitely going to be a life's work. The patience to strip things and salvage things and fix things is sadly that's been eroded. So so for me, it's quite important that I save a little bit of that kind of history. I think my grandfather would be proud of, I think my determination. And I think mainly I think he'd be impressed by my level of patience and dedication to a particular task. You know, whether it's, you know, drawing his personal items and personal belongings, or whether there's something, you know, complete.
Wow. This is just the way the dice are going to roll for me tonight. Okay, well, you kind of got the general idea of this.
And you can find that video. It is circulating out there.
It's mostly found on Facebook, weirdly. I wanted to find a better resource for it.
Well, you know, YouTube, if you look him up, you might be able to find that copy too. But
okay.
I think it is mostly on Facebook.
Okay.
But yeah, this started out as a labor of love. And I was actually watching another video of him talking about it. He was giving a lecture. And he was saying about the whole process of getting into the shed to draw these objects. So he draws every little object. I'm talking like every little screw. He's got some rules for when he draws.
Do you have those?
I do have
I would
rules.
love you to read those.
So the rules are, so his grandmother is very protective of the shed. She actually doesn't want anybody going into it. So he said that there's got to be a whole diversion factor. Like, they all live on the same block, and then his mom distracts the grandmother so he can go in the shed and get something to draw. So it's this whole thing. He's got some rules though, because she knows where everything is. So the rules are, if the item can be picked up and doesn't crumble if rubbed, he can draw it. If the packet has been opened, so if there's a package that's open, he's going to empty it and draw every single item, replace them, and then he's going to draw the container full. If the package was never opened, he can't open it. He's got to just draw it full. And that's what I just said. He's going to draw it as found. And if there are multiples of the same items, he's going to draw every single one of them.
Every single one.
Every single one of them. And at first, he wasn't doing a taxonomy with them. He wasn't numbering them. But then he accidentally started numbering some, and then he liked it, and it looked like he was going to continue doing it.
So there are pages that literally have hundreds of the same nail drawn and numbered. And those numbers correspond to the actual nails. Now, I don't know if he's actually putting those numbers on the physical nails themselves.
He's not manipulating the stuff. I think he's leaving it as true to its condition as he can.
So I'm just curious how, you know, and I mean, this is nitpicking, right? But I'm wondering how the catalog numbers line up with the actual objects, because that would be a fantastic way to, you know, sort of reference what's in the shed. So I love that for that kind of taxonomy that takes place. These are gorgeous. I mean, I love this guy as an illustrator. I mean, he's so clean and so easygoing. He's so confident in the way that he draws. This is not the way I draw. And I have a certain amount of awe for somebody that has this very deliberate and intentional, clean line. There's just something really, really beautiful about that.
It is. Well, his dedication to it as well. He's dedicated to drawing every little aspect of that shed.
Right. And, you know, the other thing I love about this is when, you know, I don't know how many of you have had experiences with this type of shed before, right? But I think we've all encountered somebody who just has their stuff. And this what it's doing is it's taking the junk in a shed, which is nails and screws and some really cool tools for sure, and things that are really dear to him, like he mentioned, the safety glasses. But he's elevating it to this other level. By doing this, it sort of assigns an importance to every single one of those objects. Amanda says, wow, that's dedicated. At the beginning, he was saying he thought he would go in there and it would take a few weeks, and then it became a life's work. Yeah, I guess when he decided to draw every single piece, for sure. Like, you find 1 pound of finishing nails, and there could be 1,000 in there.
Yeah. Just stay on this one page here, because I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the overall composition of this page and how he really made everything fit. And sometimes we keep going back to, why do people use sketchbooks? Like, what's the intention? This looks like a pretty like he seems to finish the idea. Like it seems to be its own composition and a finished piece. And everything is perfectly encased in the dimensions of those pages. I love how he's mixing the very large and the very small, and he's filling in spaces so that it all gets completed. The margins are excellent. Not that, that's a consideration, but when I look at this, your eye really travels all over the page.
Right. Well, one thing he's doing in a way, he's doing what his grandfather did. His grandfather was in a tiny shed, and he had to make really good use of a very tiny space with a lot of things in it. And so what does he have here? He's got a lot of things in a really tiny space, and he's got to make really good use of that space. And so, right where those electrical wire strippers are, which are on the left page, lower right-hand corner with the curved handles, those are wire strippers. You can see how all around the curved area above those handles, he's inserted small objects, almost like you would do in every nook and cranny in one of those sheds. You're finding a place for the nails. You're finding a place to just fit the pliers just right. In some ways, he's got that same organizational sense. Carolyn Thou's here. Hi. Actually, Pumpkin Audrey, I want to run back. Carolyn, I'm not running over you here, but I had a comment. I wanted to comment on. It's good to see you, by the way. Thanks for coming. Pumpkin Audrey says, keeps him close to Grandpa. Yeah, I like that.
And maybe that's why he's like, you know what? Like maybe he did start off drawing a box, and then he's like, maybe I could stretch this out longer and stick with him for longer.
Make a deeper connection.
Yeah, to me it seems like he wants to stay with us for as long as he can.
Agreed.
To stay connected.
Agreed. And then Dave mentions his scale of one object to the next is amazing. And that's the other thing, right? Is I think that's one of the things that gives these such a real presence is not only are they spaced and stacked and organized in a beautiful way, but they all relate to one another, one to the next, right? So, I don't know. I'm so struck by these sometimes.
Now, I know that you can buy on Amazon. He wouldn't part with any of these drawings to save his life.
Yeah, he doesn't sell these.
He does not sell
these.
You
can't get one.
But there is a reproduction. It's kind of like a coloring book, but not really. But it's got it. The pages are laid out like this. So if you wanted to buy some of his work or reference, material, because I know I love art books. It is available on Amazon.
I just noticed that the tool that's physically laying on the page has an accession number on it. You see the hanging string, which is brown, and then you see an additional label on it that's white. And I think that relates to the number he's got in the upper left corner of that tool. Ben says, has he ever added color? Not that he should. Maybe it would take away from the theme. I don't think he has.
No, I haven't seen any color. And even in his other sketchbooks that are not related to the shed project, there hasn't been any color in there. Now, those are interesting to see, too. I don't know if we have any. I think we're sticking mostly with the shed project tonight.
Yeah.
But if you go on, his website, you can see some of his other...
he does have other work that's way outside of the realms of this.
But he does like tools. He's really into tools and objects like that. He has done a little bit of portraiture, but most of his illustrations stay in the illustration realm, like a lot of tattoo flash, a lot of the typography. Like he writes in a certain style, and there's a lot of that in the background.
Yeah. So Amanda says the approach to the project, rules, and the organization of the pages both so meticulous. And I think that's what really does it, right? That's, I think, what excites me about this.
And look at this. I love how this is all washers and screws, that same shape in different sizes, but the repetition of it is just fantastic.
And everyone is just... It has its own little life, its own little personality. There's a couple of lock washers in there. There's a couple of washers that look like they're damaged. It's every single one. It's like a little variety page of, here are all the different washers.
And they're all things you would probably take for granted, that we do take for granted.
That's what this is about,
yeah.
Right? It is he doesn't want to take the little items that made his grandfather who he was for granted, and he wants to sort of elevate them to almost like a shrine. It's beautiful.
It really is.
I love those cabinet hinges. Those are Those are really cool. They nest inside of one another. John says, Nancy wants to know if the scale is correct, object to object. Well, we mentioned that just a minute ago in terms of how his implied scale is, it looks great. But we don't know, we don't think he's doing this on a level that's...
I don't think the rest of it's to scale. Not all of it.
Well,
I can't give you an honest answer. I don't think so. But I'm looking at the pens next to that. So, but I don't know.
Well, I think what Nancy's asking is if the scale is correct in terms of object to object in the drawings, maybe not to the pen, or if the hinge itself
that's
is...
what I'm saying too. I'm thinking of a bottle and like which bottle. Well, I guess a bottle is about that size compared to a pen.
Yeah, it could be any kind of bottle,
sure.
Right? It could be. So,
yeah, I'm not sure.
But I would definitely say that the cabinet handle to the cabinet hinge to the screw to the... I'm looking for another reference in there. So those cabinet hinges come as two parts, and the the one that looks like a razor, a T, and then the cross below it. Those are the two parts. Those are definitely to scale. And then if you look on here, we've got all kinds of things to reference: the keys, the I think it could be. I think it could be. It's a good question. Thinking in terms of the way he makes everything fit. Yeah, right. So I wonder if he's left with a particular space on his page and he goes looking for an object that can fill that space.
Well, he does have some categorizing strategies too, because like when we saw the page with the washers and stuff, like when did that thought process start? Like, did he start drawing one? He's like, oh, maybe I should just... I'm sure it's something that you discover along the way.
Right, for sure.
But yeah, I'm not quite sure.
The one image you had with the object next to it was pretty close. Yeah, true. Ben says you can almost grip that bottle. That's another thing I like about this is without a whole lot of rendering, he really captures the essence of the object itself in terms of its weight, in terms of its texture, in terms of its feel, right? So here's a bunch of pages that are just kind of assembled together just to kind of give you an idea of how much material there is in one of these. Some of you out there that know me well know that sometimes I have a little trouble finishing larger projects, and I can't get over this guy's tenacity. He's really, really good that way. I love
This is awesome.
this.
And does that have a blue background in it?
It does.
So there is a little bit of color.
But
not as used as color. It's more just the background.
So
that Ben was asking earlier
if he added color.
Yeah.
And so, it's hard to know if the color of the paper is blue and he's using that as a middle tone so that he can bring up the white and bring down the black, or if it's a white page that he's actually added that blue tone to. It could go either way. I don't know for sure. All right. So Lee John Phillips, look him up. You cannot get his work, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that this is a really personal endeavor for him.
Very personal.
And that is where it ends, Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about our third artist, and I have to say that there's a first in here for us tonight. Do you know what it is?
I do.
And it scares you, doesn't it?
A little bit.
So our first is this artist is actually with us in the audience right now. So, okay. So, I'm going to just preemptively ask for forgiveness if I colossally, screw this one up. But I don't think I will. But I don't think you will either.
I don't think so.
I'm not going to say his name because you yelled at me for saying Lee John Phillips too early.
Well, you can, but we have...
What?
Nothing.
You're going to say that he gave it away?
No.
No? Okay. All right. Sorry.
Okay.
Banter.
All right.
I'll shut up now.
Okay.
All right.
Well, so John Roach says you're doing fine. And on that note, this artist is John Roach.
It's John Roach. Thanks, John. Give me time.
Good introduction. Yes. So Todd really wanted to bring John into this. He was actually thinking of him, I think, the whole time we were thinking of doing a sketchbook show. And we like the variety of our sketchbook artists tonight because they're all phenomenal. But you had a really good reason for bringing John into this.
And I started to bring that reason up before
Yeah.
when I was talking about how the first two artists that we had really used the sketchbook as this place to create the intention was really about the singularity of a thing, right? So with Sanchez, it's a single thing on each page, a single beautiful thing on each page. With Lee John Phillips, it's many individual things on each page. And all of those things kind of sort of live and exist inside of the drawing, right? With John's work, what I'm really most taken by is how the drawing is, of course, its own thing. But then there is this whole other narrative, this whole other set of notes, this whole other idea behind the thought and behind the experimentation and behind the different layering that takes place. Sometimes they're diagrammatic and they sort of live to sort of flesh out an idea. They can be about problem solving. And other times they're really just about this kind of almost, it feels like play. Like there is this really beautiful sense of play in the abstraction, in the experimentation. There's a sense of humor, right? There's a great sense of humor in here. There's a sense of delicacy and tenderness in these. And also this just sort of sometimes this direct sense of, I got to get this thing out of my head, right? I've got an idea in my head. It's something I'm going to build and I got to get it onto the paper. John is John's an artist who primarily works in sound lately, but also paints, works in installation, makes sculpture. He works across a variety of disciplines. And I work similarly to that, not nearly as prolifically as John does, but I understand what it's like to have something in your head that you need to just slam out on the page or work out on the page. Like sometimes it doesn't come out that easily, right? But this is the place where that thought is sort of developed. And so these sketchbooks have that kind of either narrative directly attached to them or thought process or measurement or some other kind of proposal, attached to it. It's like, well, what if this? Or here's a dream that I had, or, that sort of thing. And I love them for that.
Yeah. I'm noticing on the screen there's a border there. Is that supposed to be there?
Yep.
No, I meant the gray border that was supposed to be there.
Well, it's because the sketchbook is laid out really long, and I think when it was photographed, it just had some issues with the, right. I think that was just what that was about. Okay. So these span this fantastic variety, and as you turn each page, it's sort of like, where are we going next? Now, John had put together a really nice PDF that was up on a site called issue.com. Issue allows you to post PDFs and then they almost turn into books. They physically have pages that turn. It's really quite nice. And it was paired with the videos that I have to show, which means when I go to pull it up, I'm going to have to retool the whole thing because it's currently broken. But let's go through these first, and then I want to walk you through that one. So, to me, when we look at something like Nicolas V. Sanchez, and we're talking about how each one is this like treasure, to me, this is much more exciting.
It definitely is, because you want to spend time, you want to read what's going on.
But when I flip the page, I know I'm not going to get another version of what I saw on the last page.
No, you're not.
I'm going to get something completely different.
Yes.
And that's a real, I feel like there's an evolution in there. I feel like there's something really, that every page I can sink my teeth into differently, which I love. This kind of reminds me of, I'm gonna do that part I do every week where I throw some artist out there that's not part of the show, and then everybody's like, who's that? But this reminds me of an artist, Alan Wexler, who he's an architect as well as a sculptor, and he often incorporates aspects of architecture, furniture, and the body into his work. But I really like this. Maybe we'll do a show on him sometime. John says, wow, I'm honored. Well, I think this is definitely something that we've wanted to do. Sketchbook Spin, which was the name we decided to call this variety on our show. And we're going to do this again. We're going to keep doing little sketchbook presentations, along the way. We were making a list of who we wanted to put on the show, and you were definitely on that list right away. Carolyn says, I love this. Amanda says, makes me think of visuals of people's memory palaces, Sherlock-like. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's actually a really good one. I think memory, especially when it's associated with sound, is actually a really, directly connected thing. And I think John's work with sound recalls a lot of that. Mm-hmm. No pun intended on recall and memory, but yeah. But see, this is what I love. It's like there's this larger composition, and then there's this diagrammatic thing in the lower right-hand corner that's like, okay, here's what we got here. We've got, this is this, and that's that, and, here's a larger picture of it in motion, doing its thing, which is...
Yeah, well, I really like the conceptual nature, both what's going on in the paper, but also what's going on in John's head that you can't see. Like, I actually want to see the artist working on it, just like you said earlier when you were working on the train and somebody was peering over. I get that feeling when I'm looking at some of these drawings. I want to see the process.
Right. Right. Very imaginative storytelling. There's a Netflix special on people in memory competitions and the way they talk through how they visualize.
Ooh.
Wow. Amanda, you're always like this fantastic fountain of all of these references, which is like really good.
Beacon of wisdom.
Yeah. And I got your email, by the way, about that piece of software that's no longer, working for what we talked about last time. So thanks for sending that. Everybody's like, don't talk about that. Talk about this. So, I wish there was a way the format of my window could change so that I could accommodate these longer images, because it's really nice to get in close to these, but I don't have that.
I definitely feel like I want to get in a little bit closer. I'm squinting just a little bit at some of these.
Well, when I jump over to the issue.com sketchbook, you'll have a chance to see them a little bit more clearly. Okay. And also the nice dynamics of turning the pages are in there. Mm-hmm. So again, here's what, if I'm not mistaken, this was a proposal for a sculptural installation at the Art Yard in Brooklyn. Again, this is just like a really great way to sort of concretely say, look, here it is in public. Here's somebody actually using the piece. Mm-hmm. They function on some level. Sculptors' drawings are, I think, some of the most fascinating drawings that you can look at, because there's a physicality to them sometimes that defies the normal drawing that's just trying to depict two-dimensional space.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
And wait, I'm not mistaken. Nope, I don't think so. I was going to say, I think there's a little ballpoint pen action in there, but I could be wrong.
Well, he does use some multimedia in some of his sketchbooks. We were looking through one earlier, and there was a lot of collage elements going on as well, as well as some drawings. And that's what I really love about his sketchbooks. You really go into his imagination a little bit.
Oh, John says, I think you are right on that. So see, I think there's some ballpoint pen in this one. So we found a connection there, but it still has that feel. Like, and that really just boils down to a good use of color, right? So there's a whole Cezanne still life thing going on here with that orange and the blue shadow and in the water underneath it. But we're not going to go all the way into that right now. So again, I just wanted to have this work in here because to me, these sketchbooks have that kind of other side of the spectrum, both juicy and thought-provoking and really fun to look at. But we're back to Glenn. We looped back around. All right, so let me fix this other thing because we have to look at this, and I think you're going to like it, but it might take me a few minutes to get to it, so just bear with me. Let's see. It's here. Oh, look, it's actually right here, so I'm not going to have as hard of a time as I thought I was going to. I just got to do some resizing, and then we're there.
I love the cover. That's great.
I know. And at the risk of telling everybody how old I am, events of 1969.
You're an event of 1969.
You didn't put my birth in there. That's okay. We're going to let you, we'll forgive you on that.
Oh,
yes. Oh, that's,
too.
well, yeah, because John and I are the same age.
Okay.
That's right.
There you go.
My birth and your birth. All right, so let's take a look at this. So first of all, this is one of my favorite formats of the Moleskine sketchbook is the horizontal sketchbook. It opens up to this really nice long landscaped page, right? And it's just beautiful. And so, here's that really nice collaged element going on. We've got some collage text in there. He even crosses out his name and puts... He put Soviet Premier John Roach. So he entitles himself in this, which I love. So again, a sense of humor, right? Even this whole idea of sort of allowing the page to have its own space, right?
Yeah.
And the way things sort of take over. The fickle finger of flux. That really says a lot, actually, the fickle finger of flux, without getting too much into the whole Fluxus movement. I don't think you're talking about soldering flux.
I haven't seen this whole sketchbook, so I'm I like the mixed media going on, and the drawing versus some of the other elements.
Sculptoria says, looking at Glenn's, I'm thinking of Eric Sloan drawings. Oh, John's saying Flux Factory. And I'm going to try and qualify both of these. Sculptoria, when you say looking at Glenn's, are you talking about Glenn Lavertue's drawings? Because I did have one up there before. I'm not sure the connection there, but Flux Factory, yeah, of course. I love this one, and the way this kind of biological form that was drawn into then becomes this drawing that kind of is this little tower. But yeah, we go from this, right? You can see this process of thought here. It's like this piece cut from a book or a newspaper becomes this.
You can see the evolution of the thought process, because here we see the fickle flux machine again.
And it's
it's a little bit more developed. The idea is developing a little bit more, and you get to see the narrative with it a little bit more.
And not that this is directly connected to the page before it,
right?
But the very difference of the two drawings side by side in this is just sort of this is that one I was talking about before, where there's a dream in here where he was being shipped a corpse, and he decided to arrange with FedEx to have it shipped to him faster.
Oh.
But there's this really sweet little cul-de-sac and a sweet little house, and then there's this guy, I think, that's supposed to be the corpse next door. And a bit ago, yeah, definitely. And actually, Sculptori, I actually want to... Did I see Beckett? Yeah, you did, actually. And I want to do a whole bit on his drawings, actually, but that's one I just haven't had a chance to put together yet. So you should definitely be here for that when I manage to put that together. But then this, it's a complete shift, right? Now we're sort of loosely playing with paint. We're collaging elements in and possibly a reaction to that, going back in and outlining some of those possible little moments that happened. How when, pigment and water sort of start to do their thing, and you discover new elements from that. I mean, these are gorgeous. I just, there's a density to some pages and a complete openness.
This.
Yeah.
Yep. Just trying to make a connection here to this, to that. And, sometimes you don't always know exactly what the artist is intending to do, but you can also identify with it. And to me, I love this page here, because I love how the composition is mostly at the two ends of the page, and then these little lines connecting with the other thought. And such, and the only use of color is this bright yellow going on, which is a very manic color. That's true. John says all of the photos are from the Almanac Events of 1969, by the way. Okay.
Is that? I know. I'm wondering. No, it's not. All right, I'm not even going to say it because I'm going to look like an ass. I
love this too.
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks like a little print block that was made with those triangles over there. Sculptori 69, Metz Moon Middle School. Middle schools. I love that. Pumpkin Audrey, I knew you were going to chime in on that Metz comment. I knew it. Look at this one. There's the repeated fickle finger of flux kind of playing that small keyboard organ, and then that hand that's kind of pushing forward towards that as if it's almost supposed to activate that hand. And then on the next page, we've got this really weirdly contorted woman who probably should be on the floor but is not, and she's sort of functioning like that pushback action
the surreal nature of this, if you think about the Summer of Love and 69 and psychedelic and everything like that too, the surreal nature of this sketchbook is really jiving with it, man. You know what I mean? Like you're just kind of falling into the flow of Summer of Love, right? A little bit. Because it's really surreal. It's like a dream and it's going through and, you know, it's trippy and I love the thought process going on. I don't even have to understand the whole thing. That's the beauty of it. I don't have to know, but I like it, man. So
Scultori says John is like a Russian constructivist. Yeah, he totally is. He totally is. And it's got that kind of there's little hints every once in a while, this kind of propaganda reference every once in a while. Mm-hmm. But you nailed it with that, I think.
I don't think that's exactly what he's doing, but to me that sounds like what's going on. Makes me think of
Am's here. Hi Am, it's nice to see you. Makes me think of Isa Jenskin scrapbooks. The originals were in her MoMA show in 2013 till still some of my favorite things ever. Mm-hmm. That's a cool reference. Yep. I actually want to look into those more. I did not get to see that, but I do know the reference. Yeah, these are
gorgeous.
I love some of these.
Yeah.
The false gems, it says on there.
Yeah. And some of these images are like there's a constructing, deconstructing, reconstructing going on.
Yeah.
It's just changing and you keep seeing the repetition of the patterns, but the evolution happening as well. 69 was a big year. There was a lot going on in the world.
Yeah. The assassin. And then this, it's like the moon, but it has, you know, and there's no literal reference to the almanac in here, but you can see the sort of hints, the remnants of possibly what was cut up, what was cut out, you know, kind of coming together. It's more of a mood. And then, you know, back to this idea. It's almost as if, you know, and I always talk about this, you know, drawing in the sketchbook, working in the sketchbook, activating your hand, the ideas just start coming, right? They just start coming. And it's sort of like, you know, you go from a page like this where it's like, whoa, where are we? You know, what's going on here? What am I feeling? What am I looking at? How, you know, what are those collaged pieces down below? Is that a landscape too? Okay.
Well, you know, we're also looking at this right now as a final completion of a book. We're looking at it in totality right now, and it's because it's got a title and such like that. I'm not sure if when the sketchbook was first created, if that was the vision. I don't know if this was just a sketchbook and the ideas started weaving together.
Well, I think you're going to get an answer because John just said that moon was actually constructed from pieces ripped off a Subway poster, actually, come to think of it. So there you go.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Looks like salt on watercolor for that effect. Really cool. Yeah, but then we're right back into this whole kind of this whole kind of diagrammatic planning and how things work. You know, like I love these references here of how, you know, I'm moving my mouse around as if you guys can see it. We're actually looking at a screen, and I'm like, oh, and look at this, and you guys have no idea what I'm pointing at. Apologies there, but I think you get the idea, right? These are fantastic. There's another piece like that Brooklyn Art. Well, there is the Brooklyn Art Yard piece, right?
Yeah.
And then here it is again in another iteration. This kind of reminds me of the High Line a little bit.
I love this drawing here on the right.
Why? What do you like about it?
I believe it's a live drawing. Well, it says live drawing too. So I don't know. I just, I like the composition of it, but I like that they're just kind of doing their own thing. And he's just standing back and drawing it. Like to me, when you're out there drawing in the world, you know, you're hoping that people just be themselves and do what they do. And that's what's going on here.
Oh, yeah.
And I like the watercolor and the playfulness and the illustrator qualities with it as well.
Well, if John does these really great shows where he works with sound. He invents sound. He invents sound-making devices and systems to create new sounds. And the performances of those things often, sometimes are far more complicated than what we're seeing here. But they do have that kind of impromptu kind of orchestra of odd things that comes together, and, it becomes a performance space. And so that guy in the lower right-hand corner who's got something wired up to his amplifier over there is...
Actually, he's the one I'm staring at the most. I'm thinking, wow, there's this bald guy leaning down and like working a piece of like equipment or something like that. And I'm like fascinated by the way he captured him in that moment, because he, I think the rendering is really great. And I think because he seems to be a little bit apart from the other figures, that's one of the reasons why I'm staring at him. But who thought he could hold so much attention in real life? He was probably just doing his thing.
Right.
And didn't realize.
Well, I think juxtaposed to that image on the left-hand side, which we're kind of not talking about, of that man who's sort of dissolving through some kind of, sort of erosion or decay. I mean, this has a life to it.
To me, that represents the noise that's going on.
Yeah. Carolyn Thau says, kind of like you, Todd. Wait, you mean about the bald guy? Or I'm just kidding. I know what you mean. I actually appreciate that. I love this.
Yeah, this one's great.
I love this. Like dancing on the dead almost. It's really fun. These are really, really fun pieces. I really enjoy.
It's inspiring because it
makes you
want to go out and create something.
And that's it. I said earlier that some of these sketchbooks will scare the hell out of some people that are like just picking up that sketchbook and they're just taking those first steps, and they see someone like Nicolas Sanchez and they're like, I give up. Or they're really inspired. I shouldn't make negativity out of that kind of beautiful work. That often inspires people, right? But there's something in John's work that gives you permission to go and do a little bit more experimentation.
I think it's more risk taking in a way.
Yeah.
Than something that like. And I love Nicolas Sanchez. But this is more putting yourself out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and he's reacting to things too. Like I can see having these two red lines on the left-hand page, and then having this other figure, right? Having an entire folder open of all these things you've cut out of this almanac, and just kind of like saying, oh, what works here, and just it becomes like this kind of dance, this really experimental dance. Look at these. Oh, there's Nick Cave. Nick Cave sound suits, one of my favorites.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, I love this dude that says, this piece is a little bigger than this. It's like, it's a little bigger than this. You can hear him saying it.
I heard you talking to the computer before doing that too.
Great. Awesome. Amanda says, this actually intimidates me because it's not relying on depicting something with accuracy. It's pulling ideas out of your head.
Yeah.
Sculptoria says, love how the drawings are convincing in a subtle way that echoes the technique as much as the imagery. Thank you, because that's exactly the words. I think that describes this beautifully. Beautifully. Amanda says, in a positive way, really impressive. Imagination, ideas, experimentation, totally. And I think, Amanda, that's something that, when you sort of push your abilities to represent things accurately, and you're talking about looking at references and accurately rendering those things, you can take little bits and pieces of that and bring them to this, and then start combining them with other things that are unexpected to see what kind of combinations now yield new ideas. And that's how that imagination gets sparked off. Yeah. It's not like the imagination exists first and then this comes as a result of that. That can happen, but there's the other avenue around the back door that works in reverse, where you're taking everything you've got, you're bringing it to the table. You're trying this with that and that with this, and going through this whole repertoire, this collection of stuff, and all of a sudden, it hits you, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about this.
Yeah, this is beautiful work. It's such a nice compliment to the other two artists.
I
too.
agree.
Like, this is really fantastic.
I agree. I think that this is the perfect way to sort of bookend, and not even bookend, but just end this sort of show with this, this other side of how to make this work. The Concord. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to bring that back. Win in Vietnam. I'm just trying to look around your microphone at my screen here. It's hard. It's very hard for me to see. Oh, yeah. So it takes a little bit of a darker turn, but as it should. This sort of accurately represents the turn we were taking as we were leaving, after 63. Things started to change. I mean, I was born in 69, so I don't know a lot firsthand about that, but I love how this guy is just sort of gazing up at this blank page. He's almost looking at us, but he's looking up here. It's a nice touch. And I think we're close to the end now. John, I got to ask you, I'm almost positive I'm right here, but I think this is the pocket in the back of the moleskin, not a representation of it. And this is your actual X-Acto blade, and then an actual little scale ruler that you were probably using to work in this. Is that a tool set of yours in there? I'll give you a chance to get it, but I think it is. And I love that that's included in here and scanned in that perfect detail. Correct. Cutting on the go. Nice. Wow, nice. That's so beautiful. Yeah. And then we've got a back page here.
That's gorgeous.
And that is just a treat. And John, I'm really thankful to have you here on this. Just kind of like, tell us where we're hitting the nail on the head. So that's really, kind of fun too.
For us. Yeah.
It is. We've always worried that, like oftentimes we're going to feature an artist and I'm like, all right, well, let's throw this out there on Instagram that we're going to do this show tonight. And then I put it at that artist. And then I realized, oh my God, what if this person comes on? Like, what if they come on and they're like, what is this guy doing? Let's go see what's happening here. And then it's I'm so pleased to hear someone talk through this work. Many thanks. And many thanks to you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Really, that's really cool to have this on here and
very inspirational.
Yeah,
very, very inspirational.
Totally. So we're working on another interesting variety on this show that we're going to do, but I have to experiment with a lot of bandwidth issues. But we're going to try and take you into the studio of an artist and have them talk about their space, talk about their workspace, talk a little bit about their work. And we're going to do that where we have a window up on the screen where we can zoom right into their space, and we'll actually have them as a guest on the show. So that's not next week. Don't worry. We're still working that out, but that's coming. And we like to experiment with different iterations of how we can present artists to you. I know we presented a show on collecting last week, the Sketchbook show this week. We typically throw one artist at you, sometimes two. But I like these grab bags.
Yeah, I like the grab bags. I like the compare and contrast. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
It's good.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you haven't left a follow yet, please follow us and, come back and see us next time. I draw live on Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's been going really well. I really kind of enjoy drawing in the Sketchbook. We call it Sketchbook Sundays. So, come and join us for that. Pumpkin Audrey says fun show. Mom says fantastic show. So great to have the artist on. Thanks, Mom. Sculptori says sharp work tonight. Ben says nicely done. You guys are all awesome supporters. We really appreciate you watching us. We love doing this. We love bringing this to you. It's the highlight of our week. And we're going to look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday. And so until then, cheers.
Cheers.
We only got to the bottom of one beer. We should have probably had more than that.
That's okay.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.